Marcus Hill was a man who once had a dream. His dream was simple but beautiful: to own a small restaurant where people could come, enjoy good food, and feel at home. For years, Marcus worked hard to build his little restaurant, called Hill's Kitchen. It was not a big place or a fancy restaurant, but it was full of heart. The walls were decorated with pictures Marcus had taken over the years, photos of happy customers, old family recipes written on framed cards, and even a small corner with kids' drawings left by regular visitors. Marcus loved his restaurant. Every morning he woke up early to prepare fresh ingredients, cook meals, and greet the people who came through the doors. He knew many of them by name, and they knew him. It was a small community where everyone shared stories and laughter. For Marcus, the restaurant was more than just a business. It was a part of his life, his pride, and his hope for the future. But life does not always go as planned. In recent times, Marcus's world started to crumble. First, there were small signs. Fewer customers came each day. The neighborhood where his restaurant was located began to change, and people's spending habits shifted. Then came the pandemic, which hit the restaurant industry very hard. Lockdowns meant no dine-in customers, and takeout alone wasn't enough to keep the business alive. Bills piled up. Rent was overdue. Suppliers sent reminders. Slowly, the money Marcus had saved started to disappear. Marcus stayed hopeful. He believed things would get better. He tried to adapt, offering delivery, cutting costs, even asking friends for small loans. But nothing was enough. The dream was slipping away. One rainy evening, Marcus stood inside his restaurant after closing time. The lights were dimmed, and the empty tables were silent. Boxes and bags filled the corners as he packed the last of the kitchen equipment to sell. It was the final night of Hill's Kitchen. The bank had given him the last notice. He had no choice but to close the doors forever. His heart was heavy. He walked outside, wrapped in his coat, feeling the cold wind bite at his face. Across the street, under a flickering street lamp, Marcus noticed two figures, a man and a little girl. They sat close together on the sidewalk, trying to stay warm. Their clothes were worn and dirty, and their eyes carried stories of hardship and pain. Marcus felt a sudden pang in his chest. The man looked tired but kind, and the girl was no older than 7 or 8. She clung to the man's hand as if he was her whole world. Marcus thought of his own family, his childhood, and how lucky he had been. He thought about the little joys in his restaurant, the birthdays, the laughter, the smell of fresh bread, and suddenly his sadness mixed with compassion. He opened the restaurant's back door and called to them softly, "Hey, would you like to come inside for some food?" The man looked up in surprise. The girl's eyes widened and she nodded quickly. They followed Marcus into the warm kitchen where a pot of soup simmered on the stove and leftover sandwiches were wrapped in paper. They ate slowly, savoring every bite. The man introduced himself as Sam, and the girl was Lily, his daughter. They explained how they had lost their home after Sam lost his job and his wife passed away. It was a story Marcus had heard before, but never felt so close to until now. That night, Marcus offered them a place to sleep in the back room. It wasn't much, a small storage space with an old mattress, but it was dry and safe. Sam was hesitant. At first, polite but unsure. He didn't want to be a burden, but Marcus insisted. "Just for one night," he said. One night turned into 2, then 3. Each day, Marcus woke up wondering how he would manage his own problems while helping 2 strangers. But seeing Lily's bright smile and Sam's quiet gratitude made him feel something he hadn't felt in weeks, a spark of hope. They talked a little every day. Sam told Marcus about his life before the hardships, about his passion for cooking, and about the dreams he still held quietly inside. Lily showed Marcus her drawings, colorful pictures of their small family and the future they hoped for. The restaurant, though empty of customers, was no longer lonely. For Marcus, It was as if the walls breathed new life. Though his own business was failing, a new story was beginning, one filled with unexpected kindness and connection. And little did Marcus know, this story would change all of their lives forever. After that first cold night, Marcus Hill found it difficult to let go of Sam and Lily. The decision to let them stay in the back room of his empty restaurant, Hill's Kitchen, was supposed to be temporary, just one night to keep them safe and warm. But as the days passed, Marcus realized that sending them away would be harder than he thought. There was something about their presence that softened the emptiness of the restaurant and warmed his heart more than any hot meal ever could. Sam and Lily quickly settled into the little space behind the kitchen. Though it was cramped and not meant for living, they made it their temporary home. Lily, with her bright eyes and endless energy, began to arrange their small corner with little treasures they found. An old teddy bear, scraps of fabric for a blanket, and colorful drawings she made on whatever paper she could find. She smiled often, even though their situation was hard, and this brought unexpected joy to Marcus, who hadn't seen a smile like that in his restaurant for a long time. Sam, the man who had lost so much, quietly started helping Marcus around the restaurant. Though he had nowhere else to go, he didn't want to be a burden. One morning, as Marcus was cleaning the kitchen, Sam offered to help him fix the old stove that sometimes sputtered and hissed. With his hands steady and experienced, Sam worked carefully, and soon the stove was working better than it had in months. It was during this time that Marcus learned more about Sam's past. Sam used to be a chef, someone who loved cooking just as much as Marcus did. He had worked in many restaurants and even dreamed of opening his own someday. But life had been cruel to him. After his wife passed away suddenly from an illness, Sam's world fell apart. He lost his job, couldn't pay the bills, and eventually found himself homeless. He never wanted to give up on his daughter, Lily, but the challenges had made their life incredibly difficult. Marcus listened to Sam's story with a heavy heart. He saw in Sam a reflection of himself, not just a man who loved food and cooking, but someone who had faced loss and failure. It was this shared experience that brought them closer. While Marcus was struggling with bankruptcy, Sam was struggling with survival. Together they formed an unexpected team. Days turned into a week. And still, the restaurant remained closed to customers. But Marcus found new purpose in having Sam and Lily there. He realized that the kitchen, once silent and empty, was coming alive again, not just with the sound of pots and pans, but with hope. One afternoon, as Marcus was talking with Sam about the future, Sam suggested an idea. "What if we cook something together and sell it at the farmer's market?" he said. "We can start small. Just simple meals, nothing fancy, but fresh, home-cooked food. People like that." Marcus was surprised by the idea. After all, he had no money to buy ingredients, no staff, and no energy left to start something new. But something about Sam's enthusiasm was infectious. "I don't know," Marcus replied. "I'm nearly broke. I can't even pay rent here. How would we do that?" Sam smiled quietly. "We can start with what we have. Maybe you can give me some ingredients from the kitchen and I'll bring some from the food bank. We just need to try." The idea stuck with Marcus. It was risky, and it might fail. But it was also a chance, a small light in the dark. That evening, Marcus allowed Sam to cook in the restaurant's kitchen. Sam worked with care, chopping vegetables, simmering sauces, and preparing simple dishes that reminded him of better days. Lily watched excitedly, helping where she could by stirring a pot or setting the table. Marcus saw something he hadn't seen in a long time: the joy of cooking, the magic of creating food that could bring people together. After a few days of preparation, Sam and Marcus packed their food in containers and set out to the local weekend farmers market. It was a small event held in a nearby park where local farmers and artisans sold fresh produce and handmade goods. Marcus wasn't sure if anyone would buy their food, but Lily was determined to help. She colored bright flyers with crayons and handed them out to passers-by, telling them about Hill's Kitchen's new market stand. To their surprise, the food was a hit. People loved the taste, the warmth of the meals, and the story behind them. Word spread quickly. A few regulars from the old restaurant came to support them, and strangers stopped by, curious about the homeless man and his daughter cooking food that reminded them of home. As their small business at the market grew, Marcus felt something shift inside him. For the first time in months, he felt hopeful. The market stand became a meeting place, not just for food lovers but for people who believed in second chances. Community members began to show support. Some donated ingredients, others lent kitchen tools, and a few even offered to volunteer. It was as if the town had embraced Marcus, Sam, and Lily, giving them a chance to rebuild. Marcus realized that this was more than just business. It was a story about kindness, resilience, and the power of human connection. While their future was still uncertain, the three of them felt less alone. Sam's cooking skills brought flavor and authenticity to the meals, while Marcus's experience helped with the organization and management. Lily, with her cheerful spirit and artwork, added color and life to the small stand. Together, they made a family, not by blood, but by shared struggle and hope. As the weeks went by, Marcus began to see a new purpose for his life. He knew the road ahead would not be easy, but with Sam and Lily by his side, he felt ready to face whatever came next. The bankrupt restaurant owner, the homeless man, and the little girl had found something precious, a chance to start over, one meal at a time. After several weeks of cooking together in the small kitchen behind the closed doors of Hill's Kitchen and selling food at the local farmers market, Marcus, Sam, and Lily were beginning to feel a small but powerful change. What started as an uncertain and shaky idea was slowly turning into something real. The food they made with so much care was being loved by the community, and with every meal sold, they were one step closer to rebuilding their lives. The first weekend market was a success. The little stand they had set up was humble, just a folding table, a few containers, and a hand-painted sign made by Lily. The menu was simple: homemade soups, sandwiches, and a few baked goods that Sam remembered from his cooking days. People who tried the food kept coming back for more, sharing the story of the man who lost everything but still found hope in a small kitchen, and the little girl who smiled brightly despite the hardships she faced. As the weeks passed, the stand became more popular. Marcus found himself waking up early on Saturdays and Sundays, full of energy and determination. For the first time since his restaurant closed, he felt useful. His hands that had once been tired and stiff from packing up his business were now busy preparing ingredients, chopping vegetables, and serving food to customers who greeted him warmly. Sam, too, was thriving. The farmers' market gave him a sense of purpose that he hadn't had in a long time. He was able to use his skills and passion for cooking to provide for Lily, and slowly, he started to heal from the pain of his past. His quiet strength and gentle nature earned him respect from both Marcus and the customers who came to know him. Lily, the little girl who had been shy and scared at first, was now a cheerful presence at the market. She wore a bright apron that matched the colors of her drawings taped to the table, and she helped by handing out flyers, greeting customers with a shy but honest smile, and collecting donations from kind-hearted people who wanted to help. One Saturday morning, Marcus and Sam arrived early to set up the stand. The sun was just rising, painting the sky with soft pinks and oranges. Marcus felt a flutter of nervous excitement. They had promised themselves that they would try to make this market stand more than just a small project. They wanted to turn it into something sustainable, a real step towards rebuilding Hill's Kitchen and their lives. As they arranged the food, Marcus thought about how far they had come. Just a few weeks ago, he was closing his restaurant, preparing to face the unknown future. Now, here he was, serving food again, not as a defeated man but as someone fighting back with every meal. The first customers began to arrive. There was Mrs. Thompson, an elderly woman who lived nearby and had been a regular at Hill's Kitchen before it closed. She smiled warmly at Marcus and Sam, saying, "It's so good to have you back, even if it's just here for now." Others were younger families, office workers, and even tourists passing through town. Everyone seemed drawn not only by the delicious food but also by the story behind it. Word of mouth spread quickly. Soon a local food blogger visited the market, intrigued by the story of the bankrupt restaurant owner helping a homeless man and his daughter. She wrote a heartfelt article, sharing their journey and praising the simple, tasty meals they offered. The article was shared widely on social media, and more people began to come to the market to support them. This new attention brought both excitement and challenges. Marcus and Sam realized they needed more supplies to keep up with demand. Money was still tight, but the community's support made them hopeful. Some local businesses donated fresh vegetables and bread, while others lent kitchen equipment to help them cook more efficiently. One afternoon, Marcus sat down with Sam to talk about the future. "We can't just keep doing this at the market forever," Marcus said. "I want to reopen the restaurant, but I don't know if that's possible yet." Sam nodded. "We have to start somewhere. This market is our first step. If we keep working hard, maybe one day we can bring Hill's Kitchen back for good." Their plan began to take shape. They decided to continue selling food at the market, but also started offering catering for small events, birthdays, and local gatherings. Slowly, they built a network of customers who trusted their food and appreciated their story. Meanwhile, Lily was growing more confident. She loved to draw and decorate the stand with her artwork, which brought smiles to customers' faces. Marcus noticed how much her presence lifted everyone's spirits. She was not just a helper, but the heart of their little team. Despite their progress, challenges remained. Marcus struggled with his own doubts and fears. He worried about the future, about paying off debts, and about whether he could really make this dream come true. Some days were harder than others. There were moments when the stress and uncertainty felt overwhelming. But each time he felt like giving up, Marcus looked at Sam and Lily and remembered why he started this journey. He remembered the kindness they had shared and the hope they had found together. One evening, as they packed up after a busy market day, a local journalist approached them. She wanted to hear more about their story and share it with the wider community. Marcus agreed, hoping that the story might inspire others facing difficult times. The interview was heartfelt. Marcus spoke about failure and hope, about the kindness of strangers, and about the unexpected family he had found in Sam and Lily. Sam talked about the pain of losing everything and the healing power of cooking. Lily shyly shared her dreams of going to school and having a safe home. The article that followed brought even more attention. Donations started coming in from people who wanted to help them reopen the restaurant. Volunteers offered their time and skills to assist with repairs and marketing. With each passing day, Marcus felt the weight of bankruptcy lift a little. The journey was far from over, but the future looked brighter. One morning, as the sun rose over the town, Marcus stood outside the old restaurant building. The sign above the door was faded and worn, but in his heart he saw a new beginning. He looked at Sam and Lily, who stood beside him, ready to face whatever came next. Together, they were turning rock bottom into a foundation for a new dream. After months of hard work, hope, and growing community support, Marcus, Sam, and Lily found themselves on the edge of something they had dreamed of for a long time: a real chance to reopen Hill's Kitchen, the restaurant that had once been Marcus's pride and joy. But as exciting as the idea was, it also brought new challenges and fears. The journey to rebuild was far from easy, and they quickly realized that reopening a restaurant after bankruptcy was a complicated and difficult task. Marcus knew that the old restaurant building was in bad shape. Time and neglect had taken their toll, The paint on the walls was chipped and faded, some of the windows were cracked, and the kitchen equipment was outdated or broken. It was a far cry from the warm, inviting place Marcus had once created, but inside him burned a strong determination to bring it back to life, better than before. Together, Marcus, Sam, and Lily began planning the renovation. They started by cleaning every corner of the restaurant, removing old furniture and trash. Volunteers from the community came to help, people who had heard their story and wanted to contribute in any way they could. Some brought paint, others tools. A local carpenter offered to fix broken tables and chairs, while a painter volunteered to give the walls a fresh coat of color. Marcus worked tirelessly, often staying late into the night to make sure everything was going as planned. Sam helped with fixing the kitchen appliances and setting up the cooking area, using his experience as a chef. Lily, though still young, was eager to help too. She painted cheerful pictures on the walls, hoping to make the space feel warm and welcoming for the future customers. Despite the progress, they faced many obstacles. Money was tight, and not everything they needed could be donated. Some repairs cost more than they expected. Marcus found himself balancing the need to spend wisely with the pressure to get the restaurant ready as soon as possible. There were also moments of doubt and fear. Marcus worried about the past, the bankruptcy, the losses, and the possibility that they might fail again. Sam shared his own concerns about starting over, wondering if their efforts would be enough to attract customers in a competitive market. And Lily sometimes felt anxious, unsure if their new home would really be safe and permanent. But through it all, their bond grew stronger. They encouraged one another, sharing stories, laughter, and sometimes tears. Their small family had come a long way from the cold sidewalk where they first met, and they were ready to face the challenges together. One day, during the renovation, Marcus received a surprise visit. A local business owner who had been following their story came to offer a loan to help with the final expenses. The offer was generous but came with conditions. Marcus would have to sign a contract and agree to strict terms. It was a difficult decision. Marcus wanted to say yes, knowing the loan could speed up the reopening, but he also feared getting trapped in debt again. After many late-night talks with Sam, he decided to accept the help, promising himself he would manage the risks carefully. The work on the restaurant continued. The kitchen was repaired and cleaned until it shone. The dining area was decorated with new furniture, fresh flowers, and bright curtains. Marcus and Sam created a new menu, combining old favorites with new dishes inspired by their experiences and the community's tastes. As the reopening day approached, excitement and nerves filled the air. Marcus found himself reflecting on the journey, the loss, the struggle, the kindness they had received. He thought about how far they had come and how much this moment meant to all of them. The day before the grand reopening, Marcus, Sam, and Lily stayed late to prepare the restaurant. They cleaned the floors, polished the silverware, and arranged tables carefully. Lily added the finishing touches, placing her drawings in colorful frames on the walls. When they finally locked the doors, that night, they felt a mix of exhaustion and hope. Tomorrow was the day everything would change. The grand reopening was announced through social media, local newspapers, and word of mouth. The community was eager to support the new beginning of Hill's Kitchen. On the morning of the opening, the restaurant was filled with a buzz of excitement. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers who had followed their story arrived early, eager to taste the food and celebrate the journey. Marcus greeted each guest with a warm smile, feeling the weight of their hopes and dreams on his shoulders. Sam worked in the kitchen with passion, preparing dishes with care and love. Lily welcomed customers at the door, handing out menus and sharing her story with anyone who asked. The restaurant was packed, and the food was enjoyed by all. The atmosphere was full of laughter, stories, and new friendships. Marcus realized that Hill's Kitchen was more than just a restaurant. It was a symbol of resilience, kindness, and community spirit. As the day ended, Marcus looked around the room, feeling tears in his eyes. The journey had been long and difficult, but together they had created something beautiful. He knew challenges would come again, but for now, they had won a small victory. That night, as they closed the doors, Marcus, Sam, and Lily sat together, in the empty dining room. They talked about their dreams, the future, and the lessons they had learned. They were no longer just a bankrupt restaurant owner, a homeless man, and a little girl. They were a family, stronger than ever. And their story was just beginning. After the grand reopening of Hill's Kitchen, Marcus, Sam, and Lily felt a renewed sense of hope and purpose. The restaurant was no longer just a building. It had become a symbol of new beginnings, of second chances. The journey had been long and hard, but now they had a real place to call home, a place where dreams could grow. However, as anyone who has rebuilt their life knows, the real test was not the reopening. It was what came next. The first few months after reopening were filled with excitement and hard work. Marcus threw himself into running the restaurant, eager to prove that Hill's Kitchen could be more than a comeback story. He worked long hours, managing everything from cooking to bookkeeping, always with Sam and Lily by his side. Sam became the head chef, bringing his own ideas and flavors to the menu. His passion for cooking was evident in every dish he created. The customers noticed the difference, praising the food for its fresh taste and heartwarming flavors. Sam's confidence grew, and with it, the restaurant's reputation. Lily, still, full of energy and dreams, continued to help in her own special way. She decorated the dining room with her colorful drawings and greeted customers with a bright smile. She became the heart of the restaurant, reminding everyone why this place was so important. The community that had supported them from the beginning continued to stand by their side. Local farmers provided fresh produce, neighbors recommended. The restaurant to friends and volunteers helped with small tasks. Marcus felt deeply grateful for this support. It was more than he had ever expected, but success did not come without challenges. Running a restaurant was not easy, especially one trying to rise from the ashes of bankruptcy. Marcus struggled with financial pressures, making sure bills were paid on time and expenses were managed carefully. There were slow days when the restaurant was nearly empty, and Marcus worried about whether they could keep going. Sam faced his own challenges too. The stress of managing the kitchen and dealing with suppliers sometimes weighed on him. He worried about providing for Lily and making sure their past hardships never returned. But every time he felt overwhelmed, he looked at Lily's smiling face and found the strength to keep going. Lily, despite her young age, sensed the worries around her but remained hopeful. She believed in their family and their dreams, and that belief was contagious. Her optimism reminded Marcus and Sam that, no matter how hard things got, they had something precious to fight for. One day, a major challenge arrived unexpectedly. A new restaurant opened nearby, a large chain with deep pockets and aggressive marketing. The new competition threatened to draw customers away from Hill's Kitchen. Marcus worried that they would lose the loyal customers they had fought so hard to gain. Instead of giving up, Marcus and Sam decided to fight back with what they knew best: honest food, kindness, and community spirit. They launched special events at the restaurant, inviting local musicians and artists to perform. They offered cooking classes, where Sam taught people how to make simple, delicious meals. They even started a program to provide free meals to those in need, inspired by the kindness that had saved them. These efforts paid off. People appreciated the warmth and personal touch that Hill's Kitchen offered, something the big chain could never match. The restaurant became more than a place to eat. It became a gathering spot, a community hub. As the business stabilized, Marcus began to think about the future beyond the restaurant. He wanted to give back in a bigger way. Inspired by his journey and the kindness he had received, he started organizing charity events and food drives, partnering with local organizations to help others struggling with homelessness and hunger. Sam joined him in these efforts, sharing his cooking skills and stories to inspire hope. Lily, though young, became an ambassador of their mission, visiting schools to talk about kindness and resilience. Their story began to spread beyond the town. Local news outlets and social media shared updates about Hill's Kitchen and its mission. People from other cities reached out, wanting to support or learn from their example. Despite the attention and growing success, Marcus, Sam, and Lily remained humble. They remembered the nights of uncertainty and the kindness that had changed their lives. They made a promise to each other to never forget where they came from and to always help those in need. One chilly evening, as they closed the restaurant after a busy day, Marcus looked at Sam and Lily with pride. "We've come a long way," he said quietly. "But this is just the beginning." Sam nodded, his eyes reflecting determination. "We've built more than a restaurant. We've built a family and a community." Lily smiled brightly, her eyes shining with dreams of the future. "And we're going to help even more people." The journey of the bankrupt restaurant owner, the homeless man, and the little girl had turned into a powerful story of hope, resilience, and kindness. What had started as a desperate act of compassion, letting Sam and Lily stay, had grown into a movement that touched many lives. They knew challenges would come again, but together they were ready to face anything. Their story was proof that even in the darkest times, kindness could light the way, and second chances were always possible.